So, my handsome riffraff, are you prepared for the unbearable anticipation of our upcoming review?
Everything is in readiness, master. We merely await your word.
Oh, and you and your sister Magenta will be greatly rewarded for your loyalty. Okay, let's start. Let's start.
Good one. Good intro.
Thank you. Hey everyone, I'm Ben, your underground conductor, and welcome to Underground Cinema. Today I have with me Riff Raff. Say hi to the people, Riff Raff.
Hello.
Hello. So, if it wasn't abundantly clear, today we will be reviewing Rocky Horror Picture Show from 1975. I have the 25th and the 45th anniversary editions right here. Not the 50th though yet. Which is wild that they haven't released.
No, that hasn't been released yet, from what I heard.
That's wild. Anyway, so this video will be going up hopefully by the day of the anniversary, the UK anniversary specifically, not the US anniversary. We'll get to that. But this film was released in the UK August 14th, 1975. So 50 years of pleasure. And this will also be the second film in the Rocky Horror Trilogy series that I'm doing for my YouTube channel.
Loosely based.
It's I like I said in my Phantom of the Paradise video, it's two related movies and then one unrelated movie, but the distribution history of that one unrelated movie is very closely tied to Rocky Horror Picture Show. Also, just watching Phantom of the Paradise, and I referenced this in my video for this movie, just based on the tone and aesthetic of this movie, you could squint your eyes and think of these movies being in the same world.
Oh, absolutely. They have the same style. They're both musicals. They both have that horror aspect. Phantom of the Paradise, if anybody didn't know, that was at the time, the only adaptation of Phantom of the Opera. Not even Andrew Lloyd Webber's Phantom of the Opera came out yet.
You're forgetting there was like the one in 1925 with Lon Chaney Sr.
No, that was the one directly related. I'm talking about the Phantom of the musical.
Oh, okay.
This was Phantom of the Opera musical before Phantom of the Opera.
You see, that's interesting. I didn't know that. And thinking back on it, yeah, you're right. Because I was just watching the Claude Rains Phantom of the Opera from 1943, and that movie's not a musical. It takes place at the opera, obviously, and you hear singing, but it's not a musical. So that's interesting. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
And you mentioned to me recently while we were talking that they're actually doing a stage adaptation of Phantom of the Paradise coming up.
Yes, Paul Williams is in talks to trying to get Phantom of the Paradise on the stage. We don't know when, but he is working on the script right now.
That's really great to hear, because watching Phantom of the Paradise, it is a great movie. Like, I only saw it for the first time recently. I've seen Rocky Horror probably 7 or 8 times, but
it's a wonderful musical. It's so quirky. I think anyone who enjoys like Repo is definitely going to enjoy Phantom of the Paradise.
Yeah, Repo the Genetic Opera, it's in that same vein. Repo the Genetic Opera is obviously an operatic, so every line is sung, and it's more demented, obviously.
Oh, right.
But they have a very similar vibe, and obviously, much like Phantom of the Paradise, Repo the Genetic Opera is also very commonly double featured with Rocky Horror Picture Show, like nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah. But moving on to Rocky Horror Picture Show itself. So, I feel like Rocky Horror Picture Show is one of those things, everyone knows what this movie is. I told my father I was recording this video, and he's not a cinephile at all. Like, he likes movies, but like him and I do not have the same taste in film at all. Even he knows what Rocky Horror is. He hasn't seen it, but he knows it. And that sort of goes along with this weird inconsistency with the reputation of this film, because I don't think anyone would disagree with what I'm about to say. The Rocky Horror Picture Show is the cult movie.
It really is. I think it really was brought up about how the the culture that was risen up about it. I mean, even when I want to say the movie came out, there were comments from people that worked at the theaters when they were doing previews that it was the same people every night for like 3 days.
Yeah, and the fact that you had that returning audience over and over again, like, it's so funny because, you know, Richard O'Brien, he talks about this in the film's commentary, the fact that Fox didn't know which audience this film would service, like who the demographic was.
Yeah.
And it was the same people and over and over again, and that really helped bolster the movie. And it's kind of remarkable because, you know, you think about a cult movie, and this baffles me. Ever since I entered sort of the Rocky Horror community, this has baffled me about the film. You hear about a cult movie. A cult movie is typically a film that was underappreciated when it came out, but develops a devoted fan following over time. You know, you have classic examples of this, like The Thing or Blade Runner, movies like that develop a significant following over time after the initial theatrical release. With Rocky Horror Picture Show, however, it's weird because it is the cult movie, but at the same time, this movie was the third, I checked, it was the third highest grossing film of 1975.
That doesn't surprise me at all.
Well, it doesn't surprise me that it was successful, but what it surprises me is the fact that it has a cult status despite being a successful film.
Right.
Like, yeah, like the other two films, the number 2 most successful film of 1975 was One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest with Jack Nicholson. And the number 1 was obviously Jaws. Jaws made like $460 million that year.
Yeah, that's going up against Jaws, it's number 3.
Yeah, it's not surprising that it was successful, but it's surprising that it attains this sort of cult status. And when I say cult status, it is genuinely like a cult experience watching this movie. A lot of people, like, we're obviously going to draw Rocky Horror fans watching this video, but for a lot of people who have a cursory knowledge of this film, so this film has stayed consistently popular over the decades because every couple months in different parts of the country, they have things called shadowcast performances.
Once a week.
Really, once a week. Well, I'll let you sort of explain that because you're actually in a Rocky Horror Shadowcast. I am not. You are.
I am in a Rocky Horror Shadowcast. I've been performing with them for maybe about a little over a year now. I don't really know too much. I'm still learning as we go along. It's pretty much just a bunch of us crazy little actors, and some of us have never even acted before. And we get together and we put on this performance where we have the movie playing in the background and we're in front in semi-accurate, you know, costume and makeup, and we're shadowing the movie, hence the name Shadowcast.
Yeah. And other movies have shadowcasts, but Rocky Horror sort of invented that. And it's an interesting thing for a couple reasons. One, because like I said, it's a cult experience going to a shadowcast. You and I went to our first shadowcasts the same weekend. Oddly enough, we went to different ones.
Yes, I remember that actually.
It was so weird. You and I talked about it because, you know, you're I didn't even do proper introduction for you. So you're my 6th guest, well, not 6th, you're my 7th guest on my YouTube channel, and you and I have known each other since high school. We've known each other, for over 10 years now. And, you know, you and I have always sort of been into the same things. We're into the same pop culture, and we have this sort of weird parallel thing where we do the same thing at the same time, but we do it separately. It's like we're two groups of, we're like different apes on different sides of the world, and we both figure out how to use a rock as a knife at the same time.
Like, I don't even know how last minute you seeing your Shadowcast performance was, because I think it was maybe 3 days before. I see a cute little ad on social media, and I tell my girlfriend at the time, I say, hey, have you ever been to a Rocky Horror Shadowcast? And she goes, no. And I go, do you want to go? I will get tickets right now. We'll go this weekend.
It was the exact same thing for me, because my girlfriend at the time, her and I had been talking for a while about going to see a Rocky Horror Shadowcast because her and I went to film school together, and we'd always heard about the movie, but we had never watched it. And we heard that the definitive way to see it for the first time was at a Shadowcast. So we both went there on a date to see the movie.
That's definitely a way to see it. I know there's people that they prefer to see a Shadowcast if they want to see Rocky Horror. From my perspective, I feel like if you really want to get into it, you probably should watch the movie ahead of time.
Well, yeah, that way you know what you're in for. Because if you just go, it's an interesting experience, but if you go into a Shadowcast raw, it is wild. Because with a Shadowcast, you know, there's audience participation with a film. You know, people were talking about recently with the release of the Minecraft movie how they did a re-release of the movie with audience participation. That whole idea of audience participation with the film really started with Rocky Horror.
And it was just people like super that came really quickly, started dressing up. They started dancing in the aisles. They started doing call outs. I do want to say, I think this is on the record, the very first call out, I think this was like during one of their like infamous midnight showings back in it actually was at midnight. The first ever call out was when Janet gets out of the car and someone yelled out, "Bring an umbrella, you stupid bitch." And I something along those lines. And ever since then, people have started coming up with call outs throughout the show.
Yeah.
And I think shadowcasts were only around because it was a way to organize these midnight showings a little bit better. Because originally, everyone just kind of did whatever they wanted.
Yeah, but like when you have the shadowcast, it's sort of more controlled. The audience, they're engaged because you actually have people in front of you rather than just a screen of moving images. And it created an odd sense of consistency because if you see any shadowcast anywhere, like obviously people will always yell out random bullshit, but consistently it's the same call-outs, like
yes,
in different beats of the movie. It's odd. And I remember I was explaining this to a mutual friend of ours, and I told him what going to a shadowcast was like, and I've been to, you know, you perform in them, but I've been to about, I think, 4 or 5 of them now. And like I was explaining how they're like to him, and he's like, "Ben, that's literally a cult. You're describing a cult to me." And I'm like, "Yeah, this is the cult movie. It's cult movie.
Cult movie. That's what we do."
Yeah. But yeah, like it's very like you have people yelling certain things at a certain time. It's very planned, it's very deliberate, and people go along with it. They enjoy it. It's incredibly interesting. The fan culture surrounding this movie is way more interesting than the movie itself.
Oh yeah, I can totally. I remember when I first watched the movie, and I was just watching it at home because I got curious enough because I was getting into musicals, and I thought, well, why not? Let's see what the hype was about. And I do remember it was so slow. It is at times it does get a little boring, which is probably why the call out started in the first place. It's to keep the audience engaged at, late ass times.
Yeah, exactly. So, with that in mind, we should probably tell people what the movie's about if they don't know what it's about.
It's one of those movies where in order to describe what's going on, you have to say the entirety of the movie. So possibly spoilers, I guess.
Oh yeah, I never give out spoiler warnings. I just tell people what happens in the movie. But yeah, spoilers if you've never seen Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Which,
so
if you happen to go see the movie.
Yeah, see the movie. It's 50 years old now. Go see it. We're celebrating 50 years of pleasure. But anyway, the movie begins with a beautiful vocal performance from Patricia Quinn.
No, Ryan was the vocals.
Oh, I got confused because in the original stage adaptation, we should probably bring that up. In the original stage adaptation of Rocky Horror, it was Patricia Quinn who did the song. That
is her lips, though, but it's her voice.
Thank you for the correction there. I got confused. And we should probably bring it up. Before this was a movie, it was a stage show.
Oh, yeah, this was an actual stage musical. And some of the actors, like Richard O'Brien, Tim Curry, even Meatloaf, was in the original musical.
Yep. And we will get to them, but it's interesting. But it begins with a song called Science Fiction Double Feature. It is the lips of Patricia Quinn. And the song itself, and I referenced this in my Phantom of the Paradise video, the song itself is meant to pay homage to the classic sci-fi B-movies of the 30s, 40s, and 50s. Because, post-World War II, when they would show movies at drive-in theaters, they would show a double feature of trashy films to entertain teenagers. So this song, Science Fiction Double Feature, is meant to sort of play on that. And that's also part of the reason why sci-fi was looked down upon until like the late 70s as like a legitimate form of entertainment, because it was meant to like just entertain teenagers.
So that's sort of a theme, is that the Rocky Horror Picture Show is meant to embody the trashy sci-fi monster movies of the 1950s. And that's going to be a recurring theme throughout the course of the movie. From the beginning, in the opening sequences where it's very light, it's very lighthearted, a little too cheesy, but that's kind of the point, is it's meant to be invoking of like 1950s, very highly sanitized conservative America.
Which is so ironic given what the movie becomes, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
But you know, a lot of the references made in the song, they reference The Day the Earth Stood Still, Flash Gordon, The Invisible Man, basically every movie with the title Outer Space in it.
Oh,
There was a million movies with like the title just Outer Space in it. This from outer space, that from outer space, blah 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 blah. Morons from outer space, killer clowns from outer space, etc. 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 Like there's a million of those. There's also the movie Tarantula, Doctor X, and they obviously. What?
I think Kong is referenced in there too.
Yes, King Kong is referenced as well as the studio RKO, which I'm sort of unclear on that because RKO, you know, they were one of the big five studios in the 1930s. It was them, Warner Brothers, Disney, Universal, and 20th Century Fox. They were one of the big five studios, and they went under. RKO went bankrupt. I forget the year. I think it was in like the mid 40s.
It was the 40s.
Yeah, I think it was the 40s. And it's interesting because I don't know who currently holds the rights to RKO's assets. Because obviously they reference RKO heavily in this movie. But Universal Studios owns King Kong. So I don't know what the situation is there.
Oh, I really couldn't do either. I think it's just a bunch. I think if it's referenced, I don't think it automatically means that there's a copyright of anything.
I mean, I feel like you're right, but there's a big RKO thing at the end of the movie, which we'll get to.
Yeah. That's difficult to say. I really think it's very much a matter of paying the royalties for it when the movie was being made. I think that's different.
You know, you're probably right. You're probably right. But yeah, RKO is referenced in the opening song, and then we pivot to a wedding. The wedding is with two characters named Ralph and Betty.
Yes.
Yeah. And funny thing, despite like you're in a Shadowcast, I'm not. But despite not being part of a Shadowcast, I have played Ralph in two separate Shadowcasts.
Oh, that's right, because you did it your first show, didn't you?
Yes, me and my girlfriend at the time, we were called up to play Ralph and Betty in the Shadowcast, which was an amazing time. It was our first time seeing Rocky Horror, so just that on a date, it was an amazing experience for both of us. So, and that was very interesting. But then I showed up to one of your Shadowcasts dressed as Beetlejuice once, and they had me come up as Ralph for that.
Oh, I think I had everybody on board. I think I even heard some of my castmates going like, "We need to get him for Ralph."
Yeah, that was a fun night. That was a really fun night. But that's a common thing at Shadowcasts. What Shadowcasts will commonly do, because the characters of Ralph and Betty only appear at the beginning of the movie, they'll just get random people from the audience to play those characters.
Yeah, usually we will select people from the audience to come up on the stage to be part of the show for only a few minutes. We try to prompt them. We just have like a suit jacket, better than mine, and like maybe like a dress for them to hold. And then I think Betty gets whoever plays Betty gets like a little bouquet, and we kind of prompt them best we can in like the few minutes we have backstage. And then we kind of like, you know, like they have them run through because our theater, there's only like one main aisle through like two sides, and they run up as like going down the aisle, and then we run them backstage, we run them back through, and then we undress them and we put them back out in the audience.
Yeah, that is a very common thing. You know, like I said, the Shadowcast I went to was different my first time than your first time, but we even did that there. So I think that's just something we consistently do at different Shadowcast shows. So, which is fun. But you know, it's the wedding of Ralph and Betty, and at the wedding we meet the characters of Brad and Janet. They're the main characters of the movie, and Brad proposes to Janet during a song that they perform. You know, it's like the first song in the movie. I think it's called "Damn It, Janet."
Damn It.
Well, science fiction double feature is the first song in the movie. This is the first song in the actual narrative. Yeah, "Damn It, Janet." And during the song, you actually see Richard O'Brien dressed as a farmer in the style of the painting Gothic America by, who's the artist? Grant Wood. And it's so funny because, you know, obviously, you know, Richard O'Brien, he wrote the original stage play. He also wrote this adaptation of the film. He didn't direct it. The director, I think, was Thomas Sherman. What was his name? Something Sherman?
Ooh, not off the top of my head, which is weird because I watched it with you earlier this week.
Yeah, you and I we watched it together earlier this week. Let me check. Jim Sharman.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, Jim Sharman directed the movie, but Richard O'Brien is the original writer, and he plays Riff Raff in this movie. But you see him as this American Gothic farmer. And it's so funny because later on, when we meet Riff Raff properly in the castle, he's standing in front of the painting American Gothic in the castle, right when the song Time Warp starts.
I mean, that I don't know how well you want to analyze it, because there's very little meaning in a lot of this movie. But I wouldn't be surprised that on purpose as a transition of that painting, sort of always looking at them, and now all of a sudden it's here in the castle.
Yeah, exactly. But I think that farmer is actually Riff Raff. My theory is that Riff Raff was already watching Brad and Janet. Especially since, like, when he's dressed as the farmer, he's carrying a pitchfork, and at the end of the movie, when he's shooting the antimatter ray, the antimatter ray is shaped like a pitchfork. That was a deliberate choice.
Purpose. That's absolutely done on purpose.
That was done on purpose. So I think it might actually be Riff Raff. I think Riff Raff was watching them. It's sort of similar to the Santa Claus with Tim Allen. In that movie, before Tim Allen becomes Santa, you see elves in his son's classroom.
And you know Tim Curry's back there too, right?
I didn't realize Tim Curry was back there.
Yeah, he's the tall guy. He's the one right next to him.
I never noticed that.
After the events of Damn It, Janet, we cut to our sort of narrator character. He's known as the criminologist.
Yeah, the criminologist.
He actually comes up and he's looking at a picture, and it actually has Tim Curry's face circled on it too. So
that's really interesting. So maybe they were both there. Maybe Frank-N-Furter and Riff Raff were both there watching the two of them.
That was deliberate. Like, even during Damn It, Janet, there's like a couple servants. It's Riff Raff, it's Magenta, and it's Columbia. Hard to say if that's them watching. I think there's a couple theories going around there what that is. I think it's just because they're sort of like the chorus. So believe what you want to believe. I think practicality's sake, they didn't have enough for a lot of the extras, so they decided to have them in there.
I mean, that happens very commonly in low-budget movies where they'll get crew to be extras, or they'll cast people in multiple roles. That's very common.
That's a wonderful callback to what they're trying to parody, which is a 1950s like B movie.
Yeah, it works. I just think it's interesting because it's like, that's like, yes, like it is cost saving, but also the fact that they imitate the painting and then you see the painting later.
Yeah.
I think that is thematic for something. But anyway, we run into the criminologist, and the criminologist is sort of, there's a couple of things with the criminologist. One, he's sort of like a gateway to the audience to help the audience contextualize what's going on in the narrative. But also, it is very clear to me, and like, this may not have been intentional, but I'm willing to bet, based on all the other homages in this movie, Richard O'Brien did this intentionally. The criminologist character is very clearly like an homage to Criswell, the narrator character from a bunch of Ed Wood's movies, like Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I can't prove that. I've never heard Richard O'Brien mention that, but just the way he looks exactly like Criswell. And also, speaking of Plan 9 from Outer Space, there's a moment in this movie, apparently, I haven't found it yet, but Richard O'Brien said it in the film commentary. There's a moment in the movie where you actually see the shadow of a boom mic. And you can also see the shadow of a boom mic in Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Oh, I wouldn't know that.
Yeah.
If you find it before I do, let me know. I will pitch it to the cast, and we will do something with that. I think that would be really funny.
I will let you know if I find it, because Richard O'Brien says you can see it on screen. I just haven't found it yet.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, side note, with Richard O'Brien, obviously creator of Rocky Horror, many people may or may not know this. He's the voice of Ferb's dad in Phineas and Ferb.
He is. And Brad Majors, Barry Bostwick, he was also in Phineas and Ferb. He was Grandpa Clyde.
Yes, he was. And it's so funny because there's a couple references to Rocky Horror and Phineas and Ferb. There's an episode. Do you remember which episode it was? Where it's like they're talking about horror movies?
Oh, no, it was a cutaway gag. I don't remember. It had nothing to do with the plot of the show, but it was like it was a later season.
Yeah, and Ferb's dad says something along the lines of, "This isn't a horror movie. Horror movies, where's all the synthesized music?"
No, where's all the rock and roll musical numbers?
Yeah, where's all the rock and roll musical numbers?
But then there's also when he was Max Modem.
That's like the Max Modem character looks exactly like very similar design wise to him near the end of the movie. But I love Richard O'Brien. And you listen to his voice. He doesn't even put on a voice performance for Ferb's dad. That's just his normal voice.
Oh, yeah.
It's great. But, the criminologist is a gateway to the viewer. He helps contextualize the events for the viewer because this is a weird movie. And he's explaining to the viewer how, Brad and Janet are sort of on their journey here. Now, I haven't seen Shock Treatment yet. and I don't want you to spoil anything major for me because I've never seen it and I want to go into it blind. But, you know, I know the broad strokes of the plot, the fact that the events of this film are actually a movie within that movie.
That is actually not 100% confirmed.
That's not?
Well, and I'll say why.
Mm-hmm.
Shock Treatment is maybe like the third or fourth iteration of a supposed Rocky Horror follow-up that Richard O'Brien had in mind.
Mm-hmm.
One of the original ideas, and a lot of the ideas, like the villain that you're going to meet in Shock Treatment, he was always there. He was always part of the show. And it always revolved somewhere around the lines of he wanted to get at Janet. He wanted to split the two of them up. And it was at one point he decided that if it was to be mentioned that the Rocky Horror Picture Show was a movie to essentially, like, it was supposed to be slander between the two of them.
Gotcha. Okay, because, you know, with the criminologist character here and him referencing the fact that these events happened already, that they've happened already, it almost feels like that's supposed to relate to Shock Treatment.
So,
you know?
Technically, yes, the criminologist is in Shock Treatment, like same actor and everything.
Okay, so that's something to look forward to.
So you'll know it's like he's very prominent in the show, in the movie. But that is sort of the idea, is that this movie was created by the villain of Shock Treatment. Again, I wouldn't say it's confirmed or not, but this was like a plot point in an original draft, and I'd like to think that it's true because it gives you it gives you a fresh, really interesting take on Shock Treatment going into the movie.
Yeah, no, that makes perfect sense to me.
Because obviously in Shock Treatment, Brad and Janet aren't played by the same actors. Yeah,
which I do know. I don't know the plot of the movie, but I know elements like that they recasted a bunch of the roles.
Yeah, and that's giving into the idea of, was Rocky Horror Picture Show just a movie within the world of Shock Treatment to, again, like just be like a hate piece against the two of them because of how clean cut, because you actually get to see a little bit of Denton.
Yeah, well, it wouldn't surprise me if it was like meant to be against the two of them because, you know, Brad is an asshole and Janet's a slut.
Exactly.
So that wouldn't surprise me at all. But, you know, the criminologist is a gateway for us as the viewer, and he tells the story of how Brad and Janet sort of get wrapped up in this nonsense. We see Brad and Janet, they're driving through the rain, and they end up at this castle because, you know, what happens? They get flat or their car breaks down or something?
They end up having a blowout.
Right. They have a blowout. It's so hard to keep track of the specific details in this movie because most of the time when I've seen it, it's just people yelling at the screen.
Oh, yeah, because there's the very common, like, oh, no, don't back up your car. There's plot behind you. And stuff
exactly. Exactly. But they go up to the castle and they start singing, and then we see Riff Raff in the window, and then they go to the door, you know, Riff Raff answer. He says, hello.
Yeah.
Hello. And he invites them in, obviously, from the rain. They're looking for a phone. Brad and Janet are looking for a phone. And that's when they get caught up with this party, as apparently it's the annual Transylvanian convention.
Yes, that is a banner that I feel like very few people, I feel like some people don't seem to look over that little detail that it's a Transylvanian convention.
You know, that would explain why they're all dressed a certain way.
It's like they may not even live there. They might even be renting the place, is the narrative.
Well, yeah, they may be renting the place. And also, side note, I mean, obviously, this was a location that they did rent for the production, but the castle that they used specifically was used in a lot of the Hammer Horror B films.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
It was, and I that was done on purpose. I think that is directly meaning that it is meant to be, like, very much like a, hey, see, we have these old stuff. Like, when we get to it, there's a prop that's used, a very prominent prop in the movie, a very, very, very pivotal scene in the movie. It is used from another horror movie.
Yeah, and you know, you're right. That was most likely intentional. And also apparently that castle's a hotel now.
Oh, is it now?
Yes, we could stay there. Apparently they have Rocky Horror parties and weddings there.
Oh, I'm not surprised at all.
Mm-hmm. But you know, they go into the castle. They're having the Transylvanian convention, and we get probably the most iconic song in the movie, "Time Warp." It is like this is the best known song in the movie. Like, even if you've never seen Rocky Horror Picture Show, you've heard this song.
Yeah, in Time Warp is a very iconic number. It's a very, like, essentially it's one of those numbers where even if you didn't know the movie, it's used in a lot of, like, even for kids. You'd be surprised that there are, like, some kids, like, albums of like different Halloween songs to play, and every now and then time will come up.
Yeah, well, it's a catchy song. It's catchy. It's one of those songs that you can give instructions to. Like, it's like the Macarena. The song gives you instructions on how to do the dance. And it's been parodied so many times. There's a YouTube channel, I think it's called Hillywood, I think. And they do a parody of Time Warp that's Doctor Who themed. They call it Time War, because the Time War is like an event in the Doctor Who continuity. It's like, let's do the Time War again. And like, that's clever. That makes sense.
That's really fun.
Yeah, it is pretty funny. But, you know, after the Time Warp song ends, all the Transylvanians collapse to the ground. And the Transylvanians were actually deliberately casted to all look different. Like, they were of different races, different heights, different sizes. That was deliberately done because, as we find out later in the movie, the Transylvanians are supposed to be aliens.
Right.
And that's when we get introduced to, you know, the villain of the film, Frank-N-Furter, played masterfully by Tim Curry.
I wouldn't know he's a villain. Definitely an antagonist.
He's very clearly the antagonist of the film, and he does so many sex crimes in this movie. So many.
Oh, so many that you're aware of that's in the movie.
Uh-huh. But, you know, he comes down and he does his little ballad of, you know, he's a sweet transvestite from Transsexual Transylvania. Very alliterative. And, you know, we get like this amazing poster shot of him, Riff Raff, Magenta, and Columbia.
Oh, yeah, all on the phone. Oh, yes.
It's a great poster shot. And this is an interesting point I wanted to bring up. And I didn't realize this, but it makes perfect sense because every time I've ever seen this movie, I always felt like the character of Columbia was just kind of there. Like, she's not a bad character. I like her, and I like, you know, she's played by Lil Nev Campbell, who's great. But she always just felt like she was kind of there. Like, she doesn't have a real stake in the story aside from, you know, her relationship with Eddie. And then I found out from the film's commentary that apparently she didn't exist in the original, like, script that Richard O'Brien wrote. Like, she was created afterwards. She was sort of taken from Magenta's character. They took some of Magenta's characteristics and turned that part of her into Columbia, which makes sense why she just kind of sticks out. It sort of reminds me of there's a couple of characters called the Martez sisters. They're in the last season of Star Wars: The Clone Wars, the animated series. And those two characters, fans hate them for a lot of different reasons, but they're inconsistent in the narrative. And the reason for that is because they weren't originally two characters. They were a single character, a male character named Nix Okami, I believe. He was in the original animatics, you can look them up, and he was supposed to be a love interest for Ahsoka in that season.
I'm glad they didn't do that.
Well, like, the idea that Dave Filoni had is that, you know, because this was the last season of the Clone Wars and it didn't feel right to introduce another love interest for Ahsoka, like a third one, so late in the show, that he took the core characteristics of Nix's character and split him in two to create the Martez sisters. And it's always kind of awkward when you do that because characters create plot. So if you take one character and either delete them or break them into pieces to create more characters, it creates sort of an awkward feeling in the narrative where it's like, well, this character either has nothing to do or they're not interacting in the narrative properly. You have to sort of invent shit for them to do that you didn't originally plan. And fortunately, I think Columbia's character is integrated well enough into the story that she sort of avoids that trap. But there's certain moments where you're like, who is this? Why is she here? You know, it's odd. Like, I like her, but it's like, well, like, you know, why are you here? It's interesting.
Yeah.
But anyway,
one of the more infamous scenes outside of Time Warp is what happens afterwards, where Riff and Magenta actually strip down Brad and Janet, practically their underwear. They're not naked, but it's close enough.
It's close enough. And apparently Patricia Quinn didn't even enjoy doing that. She was like, why do I have to be so domestic in this movie? Why do I have to constantly undress people and redress them?
Right.
It's always her and Riff doing it. Apparently she didn't like it.
Yes. They undress Brad and Janet. They take off Frank.
Glove.
They take off Frank's gloves. They take off his smock at some point. Yeah, there's a little bit of undressing. I think it's only just those two moments, though.
Yeah, but like it was enough for Patricia Quinn to complain about it, which is funny.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but they go up to Frank's laboratory, and Frank-N-Furter's outfit in the scene is very interesting because he's wearing like light blue scrubs with like a pink triangle. And to me, and this might be grasping at straws, it felt very reminiscent of like concentration camp outfits.
I know it's very reminiscent of the mad science aesthetic of the medical smock. I wouldn't know about the green triangle.
No, it's a pink triangle. And the reason it stuck out to me is because in concentration camps, I think they would put different badges on people that they put in the camps. Like Jews would have the Star of David on them, and I don't remember exactly, but I think homosexuals had like a pink elephant on them.
Oh,
yeah, I'll have to double check on that. But like they would put different things on people to like be like, okay, you're this, you're a gypsy, you're a Jew, you're gay. And I also think that sort of goes along with this idea that Frank-N-Furter might be a Nazi scientist. Because look at the shit he's doing. I mean, we know he's an alien, but I think like he's supposed to be a stand-in for a Nazi scientist.
well, isn't that what Dr. Scott?
Oh, well, that's true. Dr. Scott is actually a German scientist. That's true.
And that's definitely a trope of classic. I mean, they even did it in if you've ever seen a musical version of Grease.
I have.
When they watch the movie towards the end of the show, and typically they record voices for him, and typically the scientist voice character is always German. Like they always have him be like some sort of European accent. It always falls into German. I think that's just a wonderful, wonderful, interesting little stereotype of the 1950s. How every scientist had to have some sort of like Eastern European accent.
It's so interesting seeing the way these things evolved. Because it's like, okay, Germans were the bad guys because of World War II, so we're going to do Germans for like most of the 40s and 50s movies. And then when we get to like the 60s, 70s, 80s, it's all Soviets and like communist Russians. And then when you get to like the 90s and 2000s, it's all like Arabs and Muslims and Middle Easterners.
Well, that's just the zeitgeist for stereotypical villains at the time in real world.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just interesting seeing the way those things evolved throughout like different eras of filmmaking. But Frank-N-Furter's wearing that, and he's doing an experiment, and this sort of goes on to the point that this movie is a very direct parody of Frankenstein.
Yes,
like
it's
not
one of the songs is over at the Frankenstein place.
Yeah, like and Riff Raff is supposed to be Igor, which is ironic because after you and I watched this movie, we watched 3 movies that day, and the third movie we watched was actually the animated movie Igor.
Oh yeah, that was.
Yeah, that was funny. But it's very overtly supposed to be a riff on Frankenstein. Like it's not hidden at all. Yeah.
So
then
in the grueling long moments of him creating this creature, which I'm so glad that there are call-outs during this, because it is the longest. I think it's like the longest, like maybe minute and a half.
Just unscrewing the things to
it's more than that. It's the mechanism coming down. It's him actually handling with the different spouts. It's the creature actually rising up out of the tank. The whole thing is like a minute and a half, and then it cuts to a rock number. So
exactly, they have that super long sequence, and then they do 3 songs in a row.
Technically 4 if you count the reprise.
I did forget about the reprise. You were correct about that.
And then, if you watch the musical, that's the end of Act 1,
which makes perfect sense. Like I think that's about halfway through the movie.
Oh yeah, that's about halfway.
Yeah.
So the monster rises up and he's freaking out.
Yeah, he's freaking out because he doesn't know what life is. He just came to life, and it's so funny because like during a Shadowcast, and this is true in the movie, and it's also true for Shadowcast. In Shadowcast, the call out during the scene is always they put chemicals in the water to turn Frankenstein gay.
Yes, that is one of the call-outs. And
it's accurate. It's accurate.
Yeah.
Like, that's true. That's what they do in the movie.
Oh, yeah.
They put chemicals in the fucking water to turn Frankenstein fucking gay.
So the creature comes to life, and he's freaking out. Frank's chasing him through the first number.
Yeah, the first number. And the first line of that song I found interesting. It's the first line is the sword of Damocles is hanging over my head. And I feel like that's probably a reference to the movie Different from the Others, which is a movie I've reviewed. Different from the Others is the first full-length like gay movie ever made. It came out in 1919 in Germany. And in the movie, there's a law in place called Paragraph 175, which criminalizes homosexuality. And in the movie, they liken the law to the sword of Damocles hanging over every gay man's head.
Yeah,
I feel like that line is probably a reference to that. I might be stretching it, but I feel like it is.
I mean, it's either a really crazy coincidence. That's absolutely what's going on.
Yeah, and that's everything in this movie. Everything's either a reference or a coincidence. It's weird.
Oh yeah,
it's weird. But yeah, they have 3 song numbers. They have that one. Then they have Eddie.
And this is when Frank is, for the lack of a better term, seducing Oh, by the way, his name's Rocky. Rocky Horror Picture.
Yeah, the Rocky Horror is the name of the creature the Frankenstein monster stand-in. Which, here's another thing that could be a coincidence or intentional. I feel like Rocky Horror is RKO.
You know, I wouldn't know, but that's interesting.
It could be. I might be stretching it. Like I said, everything in this movie is either coincidental or intentional. You don't know. But they did the same thing in Wicked. The reason the witch's name in Wicked is Elphaba is as a reference to L. Frank Baum, the guy who wrote The Wizard of Oz.
Yep, it's his initials.
Yeah, it's initials. So I feel like Rocky Horror is probably RKO.
Yeah, Rocky Horror might be stretching it, but it's there. It is there.
It's there. But yeah, you have Rocky's song, then you have Make You a Man, and then you have Eddie's song by Meatloaf.
Oh,
Meatloaf
who they don't really reference at all. In the musical, they kind of hint at it a little bit, but in the movie, played by Meatloaf, of all people, he literally bursts onto the scene. He has this big rock and roll musical number, which could very well be, if it wasn't time warped, this might be one of the more famous songs in the show.
Oh yeah, it's a good song too, because Meatloaf is, a good singer.
Oh, absolutely. So of course everybody's referencing all the Meatloaf jokes.
Yeah, it's great, and I really enjoy him. But he just kind of appears in the movie, and you sort of have to put together the pieces as you watch it. The fact that he has like a relationship with Columbia, and the fact that he was maybe one of Frank-N-Furter's side experiments, that he took part of Frank-N-Furter's brain and put it in Rocky.
Right.
Yeah, you have to pick those things up while watching the movie. It's not explicitly explained to you.
Yeah, some of it's explained in the movie a little bit later on, but yeah, when you first see that, you go, what the hell's going on? Because literally, right at the end of this song, he dies.
Yeah, it's like the character's introduced and then killed immediately.
Yeah, and you just gotta go, what did I just watch? And then they kind of go with the to Make You a Man. Like nothing happened.
Yeah, they just ignore it. They blow past it. The only evidence that the character ever existed is the fact that Columbia's character weeps over him, and also the fact that his uncle shows up later in the movie.
Maybe 5-10 minutes later, a couple scenes later.
Yeah, but after they do the reprieve of the song, Brad and Janet turn in for the night, and both of them get fooled into having sex with Frank-N-Furter.
Yes, and that is very interesting, because do keep this in mind. This was a musical. So sometimes if you haven't seen the musical, you got to ask yourself, how did they pull that off?
Yeah. Because the scenes happen one after the other, and it's what did you do? And in the movie, I've never seen the actual stage show. I've only seen shadow casts, but in the actual movie, they have the scene sort of shrouded behind a silhouette of a bed sheet. Well, it's not a bed sheet. It's like a drapery.
Like a very thin curtain over a bed.
Yeah, exactly. And that was done by the director. It was done by Jim Sharman to sort of add a sense of sexual prudence to the movie, because it's a very overtly horny film. But the director wanted to add a little bit of he wanted to have the audience sort of imagine something rather than showing it to them, And I'm wondering the same thing, how they would do it in the stage show.
Well, I actually have seen the musical.
Mm-hmm.
So what they've done with that, because that scene's in the movie, that scene's in the show. So what they've done is that they have essentially, they took from what I've seen, it's just a big old thing of plywood.
Mm-hmm.
And it looked like a bed. So technically the characters are standing up. So you got Brad, and then you got Frank.
Mm-hmm.
And what it is with that, or Janet, and essentially what I've seen is that here's Janet, and Frank's kind of creeping up, and they're kind of like that. So they're sort of standing up, but they're supposed to be kind of in bed.
So they do it at the same time.
Yeah, not at the same time. I think because do remember, there is a scene where Rocky escapes.
Yes, that happens simultaneously with the separate sex scenes.
So it's the one with Janet first, and then it's Rocky escaping, and then Brad comes, and then Brad gets his comeuppance, I guess.
We say comeuppance. He's they both got fooled by Frank-N-Furter the same way, because they were both distraught over the fact that they have to spend the night in this horrible castle full of sexual deviants and weird aliens.
Yes.
And so they both get fooled into having sex with Frank-N-Furter because Frank-N-Furter puts on the voice of the other. And yeah, Rocky escapes, and we forgot to mention the elbow sex.
Oh, it's the elbows. That's a very common call out with Shadowcast.
It is. Apparently, Patricia Quinn calls it elbow.
Oh, so that's probably why.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but yeah, so that's it's weird because they didn't intend it to be incestuous, but the fact that the shot directly preceding the elbow sex is a shot of Magenta staring at Riff Raff's ass, like as he's walking away.
Yeah,
she's checking him out. It's like it was very incestuous. It was incredibly incestuous, and I've made my position on incest very clear several times. Only third cousins is okay, man.
I mean, you don't know how directly related they are. They could say brother and sister, but that's as far.
According to Patricia Quinn and Richard O'Brien, they are supposed to be brother and sister.
Ooh, interesting.
And I didn't even say it in the movie that they're supposed to be siblings.
Yeah.
I mean, they're aliens, I guess, but only third cousins is okay.
Only third cousins is okay, no matter what planet you're on.
Yep, doesn't matter. I don't care. Only third cousins is okay. I'm maintaining a solid like foundation on this. Like this, you have to maintain a standard for these things.
Yeah.
But Rocky escapes. Brad and Janet get tricked into having sex, and then Janet feels dirty about the whole thing because she had sex first, and it's like, oh my god, I cheated on my fiance.
Yeah, and then she discovers that apparently, even though she did it with Frank first, she's definitely Brad did it with Frank.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's upset, and it's like, did you expect him to be stronger than you? Like, I get he's the man in the relationship, but did you expect him? Like, it's Frank-N-Furter.
Yeah,
you know what Frank-N-Furter does. You saw what he does. Like, did you expect him to be? And then after she sees that Brad had just finished having sex with Frank-N-Furter, she's like, I'm gonna have sex with Rocky now as revenge. It's like, revenge for what? He did the same thing you did.
Right.
The only difference is that you just found out. Like, it's so hypocritical, and it's the reason why everyone who watches this movie calls Janet a slut. Because it's like, okay, you were both fooled by the same guy, I get it, but like then you immediately have sex with basically a newborn baby. That's what Rocky is.
Oh yeah. So
poor Susan Sarandon.
Janet goes back up to the laboratory and finds Rocky.
Yeah, she finds Rocky. He's afraid because he ran away from Riff Raff and Magenta. And he knows nothing. He has rocks for brains. He's Rocky. So they have sex. And it's sort of weird because the sex scene with them, well, it's paired with a very cringy song. Touch me, touch me, touch me, touch me. I want to be daddy. Touch me, touch me. It's such a cringy song. Poor Susan Sarandon being forced to do this. I mean, I'm sure she had a great time. Well, actually, she didn't have a great time. She got the flu on this movie.
Oh,
but yeah. But it's just the sex scene is juxtaposed with her and Rocky versus her and Brad and her and Frank-N-Furter. It's like all three of them. And I also think Magenta's thrown in there as well. Like because it just keeps on going through, like, Rumor of the Night. I think that's the chorus line.
Rumor of the Night.
Yeah, exactly. It just keeps on going from character to character. It's like she's taken all of it. And like, this is not doing wonders for your reputation, Janet.
And now, this is the fun part. This is where Frank, Griff, and Brad go up to the laboratory.
Yep.
I'm assuming to look at Rocky. But
yeah, it's like, Janet, Rocky, Janet, Frank-N-Furter, Rocky, Janet, Brad, Frank-N-Furter. They go back and forth.
So then this is when Riff needs to go find Rocky, turns on the television monitor, and he finds Dr. Scott.
Yep. Who's just arrived. Coincidentally, Brad knows him. Like, coincidentally. But Dr. Scott isn't there for Brad. Dr. Scott has no idea Brad is there. Dr. Scott's there because Eddie, who got murdered by Frank-N-Furter, is his nephew. We
find out they're related, so he's trying to find Eddie.
Yeah. So then they do the magnet scene, which makes no sense, but it's hilarious.
And then that's when everything kind of gets revealed. As soon as Dr. Scott gets in there, that's when you were talking about the little roll call, where it's one of the cheesiest moments in the whole movie, where they just keep shocked and looking at each other one by one. And at this point, it's just not enough. Like, he is he's losing his shit, I'd say.
Yeah, exactly. Because, like, Eddie showed up, ruined everything, and then his creature, who he invented as a sex toy, terrible Frank-N-Furter, terrible with your sex crimes, is having sex with a woman of all things. And then Dr. Scott, who apparently has his own beef with Frank-N-Furter, shows up. So everything's just going haywire. And then they have dinner.
Yes, a very, very, very awkward dinner.
Yeah, and also a bunch of the shit that they have at dinner. It's like mason jars and like piss jars and shit. It's because, like, since the Transylvanians are aliens, they have no idea how to entertain, so they just grab random shit. Like, that's an intentional decision in the movie, which I think is funny.
So as dinner's being served and everything, very awkwardly, Frank does sing "Happy Birthday" to Rocky.
Yep, because it is Rocky's birthday,
and he's trying. Like, I think Frank knows. Obviously, Frank knows, but they're served. Well, they're served something.
Yeah, they're served. Yeah, they're served Eddie after we get the song "Eddie's Teddy," which apparently that song was added late in the original stage show. That song, like when they were making the original stage show, that song wasn't in the original script. They added it before they did their first show, and it's because they went a while without having a song. Because I think that is the last song before they get turned to stone.
No, there's also Planet Schmanet.
Oh yeah.
There's that song where he's sort of singing to Janet as he's chasing her up to the laboratory. Yeah, it's found out that Dr. Scott found out how Eddie came over there because he sent a letter.
Yep.
And then officially revealed that Eddie is not only killed, but they were consuming Eddie.
They were eating Eddie. They were eating Eddie, not in the good way. They were eating meatloaf. They were eating meatloaf.
Oh yeah, meatloaf again. You know how that goes.
Yeah, I know. I've seen Sausage Party.
Right.
With meatloaf.
Yes. So when they go up to the laboratory and they stone them all, and then that's when Columbia just kind of randomly shows up. This is where we get a bit more exposition as to what's going on in this whole spiel. She comes up really, really upset about everything. We're finding out that both she and Eddie were past lovers of Frank, how Frank apparently took half of Eddie's brain and put it in Rocky's. Like, all of this. This is like the big exposition spiel as to, like, this is what's going on.
Exactly. And once again, that sort of goes along with the idea that Columbia's character wasn't like a thing. And they sort of just added these details to, like, give her something to do. And then Frank-N-Furter, being pissed off, turns on the Medusa ray on all of them.
Yeah.
Turns them to stone. And at that point, he's all like, "Yo, Riff Raff, Magenta, we're doing stuff." And Riff Raff and Magenta are like, we just want to go back to Transylvania. We hate it here. This sucks. And Frank-N-Furter, he doesn't care. He's a very self-indulgent man, which makes sense because this is a very self-indulgent musical. So he sets up a big dance number with Brad, Janet, Rocky, and Columbia.
The floor, probably Rose Tint My World. That is probably one of the most. I wouldn't say it's a parody number. I wouldn't say it's a very famous number, but it's definitely the one that if you see anybody in the fishnets, in the corset, and everything,
you recognize it.
Floor show. This was the image of Rocky Horror Picture Show if it wasn't on the throne. It was the four of them decked out in the way that they were. And it is a wonderful, wonderful little number. The choreography is phenomenal. Everybody kind of gets their little bits and pieces and stuff like that. And it's kind of wild where it goes. They're sort of like under Frank's influence.
Yeah, exactly. And it's pretty good too. And there's some more art in this scene. Like, as soon as they open that big curtain to reveal the RKO, like, logo, they go into a pool, and at the bottom of the pool, and you can kind of see it, depending on, like, what version of the movie you're watching. It depends on the visual definition. At the bottom of the pool, you can sort of see it through the water. It's the Michelangelo painting of God giving Adam life, which is at the top of the Vatican.
Yes.
Yeah. I've seen that painting in person, too. Like, when I was in Italy. You can't take pictures inside the Sistine Chapel, like, at all.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. But you can sort of make it out in the water of the pool, and they sort of come together, and it's like, I think it's meant to be metaphorical because Frank-N-Furter sees himself as God, and he gave life to Rocky. And it's also interesting because it feels like, going back a bit, it feels like when Rocky and Janet had sex, it felt like Adam and Eve having sex. Eve being like the sinful one, tempting Rocky.
That's
yeah. I don't know. Maybe that's just some latent misogyny. I don't know.
Well, here's the interesting. I don't know if I want to say twist, but if it wasn't made clear before, here comes Riff and Magenta in these decked out, like highly cheesy looking, all metallic looking spacesuits, and turns out they're aliens.
Yep, they're aliens.
Which, if that was not made clear.
Yep, and Riff's hair has like a coat hanger in it to get the specific shape. But they say they're aliens at the dinner scene. Like Dr. Scott says, I always knew Eddie fell into a bad crowd, but aliens.
Yes, but it's worse than I feel. Aliens.
It's worse than I feared. I mean, he's German, so you probably could have assumed that he was being racist, like illegal aliens or something. But they're actually like space aliens. They're from they're transvestites from the solar system transsexual. Wait, no, from the planet transsexual in the solar system Transylvania. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He has a little coat hanger to get his hair in that shape. And Patricia Quinn, who plays Magenta, her hair, it's a very overt homage to the Bride of Frankenstein.
More of a beehive than it is the cone that everybody knows.
Yeah, but it has little squiggles, like the lightning squiggles on the side. Oh. Yeah. And obviously this movie is a parody of Frankenstein primarily. But also, like, you and I have talked about this before. Elsa Lanchester, who played the original Bride of Frankenstein, she was a redhead. Yeah, she was a natural redhead. Everyone thinks that the Bride of Frankenstein in the movie has black hair because the movie was in black and white. She was a redhead. If you look up behind the scenes photos, like colored photos.
Well, her wig's on display, I think, somewhere in Hollywood. It's red.
Yeah, it's red. It's red with the little lightning squiggles. So, and Patricia Quinn was not a natural redhead. Apparently, she has black hair. So, like, them making her hair red, that had to have been intentional. Like, that had to have been.
I don't think there's any like direct reference to the fact that her hair is red the entirety to get that moment. But I would not be surprised at all if her hair is red specifically for that homage.
Yeah. And it's so funny because you and I went to Universal Studios last year. And you took a video of this. I was so drunk and I was bloated too. You could tell, but you took video of this, me interacting with the Bride of Frankenstein and Frankenstein's monster, like at Universal, and they got the hair right on the costume for the cast member. They got the hair right. It's so interesting. They didn't get the Frankenstein color right because a lot of people also don't know this. Frankenstein's monster isn't green. It's like flesh colored.
He's actually. Oh, I think it was the poster.
Yeah, it was the poster. The poster makes him look green, but he's not green. He's flesh colored.
Yeah, so it's meant to be flesh.
Yeah, but the cast costume at Universal is green, which is funny. They didn't get that right, but they got the hair right on the Bride of Frankenstein. It's so hilarious. But yeah, Riff and Magenta show up. They show up to kill Frank-N-Furter. Frank-N-Furter begs for his life. He gives this beautiful like soliloquy, which is I think a reference to a Judy Garland movie. And then you have like a bunch of people clap in the audience, but they aren't real. They were like a fantasy he was having.
Right.
Yeah. And then, they go to shoot Frank-N-Furter, with the antimatter ray, and Frank-N-Furter gets injured. And Rocky goes to carry him. He goes to carry, his creator up to the top of the RKO tower. And that's very overtly a reference to King Kong. Rocky's supposed to be King Kong. Frank-N-Furter's meant to be like Fay Ray's character.
And Riff shoots him. Them both.
Yeah, they shoot them both down into the pool. What's the line in the Shadowcast show? There's two in my soup.
Oh yeah, waiter, there's two in my soup.
Yeah. But then Brad, Janet, and Dr. Scott all get to leave because Riff Raff and Magenta don't care about them. They get to leave, and then the house blasts off into space.
Because the whole thing was a spaceship.
The whole thing was a spaceship. And I think they do the same thing. I don't know if this was intentional, but in the second Elvira movie, Elvira's Haunted Hills, there's a scene where the house disappears, and I feel like it's meant to be a reference to Rocky Horror.
It might as well be at that point.
It might be. But anyway, the house blasts off, and this is actually what this is the distinguished difference between the UK version, which is what we're doing, and the US version. Because there's one final song in the movie as the house blasts off and you see them in the rubble. And that song was cut out of the US version. It's only in the UK version.
I really couldn't tell you why. I think there is a reason, but I wouldn't know it off the top of my head.
I think I heard, and I hope to God this isn't true because it's stupid. I think I heard it's because the song has like 1 or 2 lines referencing superheroes.
Well, yeah, the song is called Superheroes.
Yeah, and people thought superheroes were stupid. This was like 3 years before Superman 78 came out. So it was cut out of the US version because of that. I hope that's not true because that's stupid, but I don't know why it was cut out. You know, I could probably look it up as I'm editing the video and just put it here.
Oh, yeah.
But that's the only, like, I've watched both versions of the movie. That's the only thing that's cut out of the US version.
Yes.
Like, I think. Like, looking through everything, that's the only thing cut out. If you watch the US version, it just jumps from the house blasting off into space to them on the ground. And it just cuts out the song. Then it pivots to the criminologist delivering his final lines, and then the movie just ends.
Yeah?
Yeah. And, yeah, that's Rocky Horror Picture Show. And,
hour and 40 minutes of what the hell did you just watch?
Exactly. It's so weird. And, you know, I referenced this in my Phantom of the Paradise review. Phantom of the Paradise is a more grounded film. There's a supernatural element in it because, you know, we discover in the movie that, you know, there might be some satanic stuff going on, but it's a more grounded film. It takes place mostly in a real world. It's just also a Phantom of the Opera adaptation. And it feels like it could be in this world as well, but it is a more grounded story. This movie is much more ridiculous, and it also has a slower pace, which is odd. Because, you know, you've seen the stage show, I haven't, but Richard O'Brien talked about this in the commentary, the fact that, and so did Patricia Quinn, the fact that the stage show is very quick. It's very quick moving. And the movie feels more drawn out. And Richard O'Brien was apparently there for the editing process. And as they were making different cuts of the movie, he noticed how if the movie was an hour 35, it felt drawn out. But if it was just 90 minutes, it felt fine. And if it was an hour 25, it was too quick. And it just really goes to show you how powerful editing is. I mean, I know this firsthand editing all my videos. But that's just so intriguing. If you just cut out a few minutes here and there, it just makes things progressively quicker. Because as it stands, this movie is very slow. And even that last song, which they cut out of the US version, that song at the end does make the movie feel like more drawn out than it should be. Which may actually be the reason why they cut it out of the US version. Who knows? But it's a very slow movie. And I remember I was at Book Off recently. You know, you and I go to Book Off all the time.
Oh, yeah.
I was at Book Off recently, and I was having a nice conversation with a guy I met. And he told me how he only watches movies from the 80s, 90s, and 2000s. He doesn't watch new movies, and he doesn't watch any movies before the 80s. Because he tries to watch old movies. And he told me specifically movies from the 70s are too slow-paced for him. And I sort of get where he's coming from, because there's exceptions, obviously, but you watch a lot of movies from the 70s. Most of the scenes are cut in real time. There's a lot of long shots, a lot of one-shots. And, you know, it feels like there's too much breathing room. Like, you can put breathing room in a scene to let the audience digest what's going on. But, you know, because so many 70s movies have these, like, long one-shots, it makes it feel like there's too much breathing room. And as a consequence, the movie loses your attention. And that's sort of the case with Rocky Horror. Like, there's scenes where you're watching it sort of loses your attention, and that's also why certain elements of the plot are confusing. Because the movie sort of brings you in and out, and that's also where the audience participation comes in. I was about to say autism. Audience participation.
Right.
That's where the audience participation comes in, because the audience participation allows the movie to be more interactive and more interesting, because you have the people watching it directly interacting with it.
Right.
But yeah, it's a slow movie. I mean, the cast is phenomenal. The cast is absolutely amazing. Everyone's doing a great job in this movie. But there's not a lot of substance to the film, because it is meant to be a parody of, like, you know, sci-fi B movies. That's what it's meant to just be a parody of that. It's not
more of like itself. Not like it's not trying to invoke a really heavy plot. It's meant to be a very simple plot, very simple premise.
Yeah.
People say there's no plot to the movie. I think that there kind of is, but at least in the first act, you really don't know what the hell's going on. And then Act 2 hits, and then you go, I get it.
Yep. And, yeah, you do get it. But I just I don't know, man. I don't know. like I said, I've seen this movie. You've seen it more than me, obviously, but I've seen it like 7 or 8 times, and like it's entertaining. It's thoroughly entertaining, but it's not deep at all, which is fine. You're allowed to have things that are just fun to watch, but
Yeah.
because it's so slow, you kind of need to like zone in and be like, okay, what's going on here? And also, this is kind of heresy to say, the songs are kind of hit and miss. Like, I don't want to be mean about it. Like, I love Richard O'Brien, but like, I think only about half the songs are good,
Yeah, I mean, the song technically cut out. Like in the original musical, there's only one song that's missing from the track of the entirety of the movie.
Yeah.
And supposedly they did film it, but they took it out because it was very slow paced. And I kind of agree there because I've seen where the song was supposed to be and how long it was, and it was supposed to give Brad. It was Brad's like little solo. It's supposed to give Brad a little more depth to his character, but it really did slow down the pacing of the movie.
Yeah. I mean, I can see the inclination there because Brad feels very passive in this story. Like he's just a normal white guy. He's just a plain white guy who gets caught up.
Yeah,
that's his character, and that's fine. But like Janet has way more to do, which good for this movie giving women shit to do, which a lot of movies at the time didn't.
Oh, she's got way more to do in Shock Treatment. You better be ready for that.
I'm getting ready for that. I'm getting ready for that. But Brad doesn't have a lot to do in the story. But yeah, this is a very interesting movie, and it's so odd because, like I said, it is the cult movie, but it was very successful when it came out. And a lot of it probably has to do with the fact that it is very obviously like a queer film. Like I think there had been queer movies before this. Obviously, I talked about different from the others from 1919. Glenn or Glenda came out in like I think 1953. And obviously, I think Pink Flamingos came out 3 years earlier in 1972. So there were queer movies that existed, but they all sort of got buried. This movie, sort of found its way into the mainstream, kind of, and it is very overtly queer and very, very horny. It is a very horny film.
Oh yeah, it is. That we can agree on.
Yeah, and it's sort of remarkable that. I mean, I'm sure there probably was people who were morally outraged about this, but the popularity around this film sort of blew up. Like it was wild.
Yeah, it did. Hence why we have like Shadowcast, and it's so widely celebrated.
Yeah, because it offered that representation that people were looking for, and it's so weird when you watch the movie because it feels like something John Waters would have made. Like he didn't. Like that. It was done by Richard O'Brien and Jim Sharman, but it feels like a John Waters movie. It feels like you're watching Hairspray or Crybaby or Pink Flamingos.
Oh,
but
yeah.
It's not. It's very interesting. And it also might be one of the gayest movies ever made. Like, I'm just thinking back to like all the queer movies I've seen, and like even some like Kinky Boots from 2004 is not nearly as gay as this.
Oh, no, absolutely not.
Yeah, it's so wild. And I think that did add legs to it and helped create the appeal surrounding this film. It's, like I said, so interesting talking about the culture surrounding this movie. Way more interesting than talking about the movie itself. But the movie does have stuff to it. I like the fact that there's references to so many things. I like the fact that it is like very overtly a parody to Frankenstein. Like all the little things that you see in the movie, like the fact that, Riff Raff scares Rocky with fire because in the original movie, Frankenstein's monster is afraid of fire. Like that, little details like that, I really enjoy that. I really enjoy those things. But yeah, it's so odd trying to... That was weird. It's so odd trying to analyze and critique this movie. Because like I said, like you and I keep saying, there's not a lot to it. There's a lot of things in it and a lot of visual references you can pick apart. But narratively, it's very thin and kind of just a bunch of shit happens randomly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's fun. And, like I said, a lot of visual cues. I'd like to bring up a couple things I noticed while I was watching it. So there's a sign outside the church during the Ralph and Betty wedding at the beginning. The sign says, "Be trust and fear not." And I think that's supposed to be a reference to angels, because in the Bible, angels look like concentric rings. And when they show up to people, they look so weird, and the angels have to say, "Be not afraid."
Yeah.
So I think that might be a reference to that. They see... talked about Chris well. Oh, I already referenced that the castle was used for a lot of Hammer films, a lot of Hammer horror films. But the castle was actually next to Hammer Studios,
Oh,
like
was
next to it. Yeah. So yeah, that's another thing I found out while watching the commentary. Oh, in the Transylvanian convention during Time Warp, you can see in the background there's a painting of the Mona Lisa, but the painting is in black and white.
Oh,
yeah, which I think may be a reference to the original idea with this movie, because this movie was sort of meant to play off The Wizard of Oz, because the first third of the film was supposed to be in black and white, but then when you get to the Transylvanian Party, it's supposed to be in color. So maybe the black and white Mona Lisa painting was supposed to play into that, maybe? I don't know.
Maybe. Hard to say, because I don't know how far they went with the black and white version. I know there's a doctored version where like it is black and white until they open the doors for Time Warp. That's
Which I feel like that's better, though. I feel like that is better. They see. Oh, I think it's entertaining the fact that even the criminologist interacts in the Time Warp dance, because it's just that catchy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They see. Oh, this is just a question I have. Because, we obviously have that exposition dump with Columbia in the movie where she talks about her relationships with Frank-N-Furter and Eddie. Were they a throuple? That's just a question I have.
I don't think it sounds like that. In her speech, she said that Frank left her for Eddie.
Mm-hmm.
And then Eddie was left for Rocky.
Yeah.
So I don't think jumped from relationship to relationship.
Okay. Yeah, it's hard to figure out just based on the lines in the movie. It's like, what are you talking about?
Oh yeah, I get that.
Yeah. They see oh yeah, the fact that Rocky's character is very much meant to be Atlas, like the Greek titan who holds up the world.
Oh
they
yeah.
They even have a mosaic of Atlas, like a stained glass window, I think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's supposed to be Atlas. Let's see. Oh, okay, here's something. So the RKO setup at the end with the big tower, that was supposed to be the Fox logo.
Oh, it was supposed to be the Fox logo.
Yeah, because this movie was produced by Fox.
Right.
It was supposed to be the Fox logo, but while they were making the movie, Fox changed its leadership, and the new CEO of Fox Studios didn't want the movie to be made. But by the time he got in power, the movie was already too far along for them to cancel. But they wanted to do the Fox logo at the end, and the CEO said no, he didn't want it. And it's ironic because when the movie finally came out in August, September 1975, that CEO had already been replaced with someone else.
Right.
So it's just, but they ended up using the RKO logo instead, and it fits because obviously the movie references RKO at the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously it also plays into that King Kong homage that they do at the end, but it was supposed to be the 20th Century Fox logo that they were climbing, not the RKO logo.
Yeah.
Which this is interesting. And apparently the whole shoot of the movie took only 6 weeks, which that's not bad. That's average. Average film shooting is 2 to 3 months, so 6 weeks, that's average. That's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know what else to say about this movie. It's a weird cultural touchstone,
It is, and it's one of those movies that cannot be made again.
They tried with Victoria Justice in 2016.
That's an interesting story. That's probably a different episode.
We can do that another time. Maybe for the 55th or the 60th, or maybe next year. I don't know.
But yeah, this movie can't be replicated. It has its following. It's gonna continue on. This is something that is very cherished by a lot of people.
Yeah. People love this movie, and like I said, it's probably because it offered that representation that people were looking for in the 70s, because the sexual revolution had just happened in the 60s, but homosexuality was still sort of viewed as deviant. And like I said, there was queer movies before that, and John Waters was making waves in the film industry at that point. But this movie, it's sort of like Star Wars in a sense, where it just came out at the right time, where it just gave people exactly what they wanted.
Yeah.
And, it's just interesting to see the legacy that had. And that's also why the movie probably was so successful and why it stuck around so long, as opposed to something like Phantom of the Paradise. And I think Phantom of the Paradise is a better movie. It's a stronger film, and I think it's a better quality. And also, the movie was written and directed by Brian De Palma, the guy that made Scarface.
Oh yeah, there is a little bit of direction in there that like totally makes it referencing
Yeah.
Discover.
Yeah, it's a stronger film made by, frankly, a better filmmaker. But it doesn't have that sort of key element. It's a rock musical like Rocky Horror. It parodies like classic monster stories like Faust and Phantom of the Opera, much like Rocky Horror does with Frankenstein and various other B movies of, the 30s, 40s, and 50s. It does all the same stuff as Rocky Horror, and it has a similar tone, but it's missing that queer element. And I think that is what sort of gives the kiss of life to this movie.
Yes.
Yeah. Which, yeah. Gotta give Rocky Horror the props. You did it. 50 years later, guys. 50 years later, you did it. And it just makes me curious to see if they end up making a 50th anniversary edition, what they're going to include on it.
Well, they will. What'll be included on it. I know they're going to try to do a 4K release of it. I don't know if it's meant to be shot in 4K. I don't know how that's going to look, but we'll see.
Well, like, it was shot on film, and film can be restored up to 8K, I think. Like, actual, like, nitrate film can be restored up to 8K. But you shouldn't do that.
Right. So just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah, exactly. You should not do that. That's a bad idea. But who knows? Maybe it might be successful. I'd be interested to see what they do with it. But this is a movie that is just so important to so many people, and I'm interested to see what they'll do with the new edition. There's something else I wanted to bring up. I'm trying to think. I mean, new season of Phineas and Ferb. I think Richard O'Brien came back for that. But yeah. Oh, this is what I wanted to bring up. So this movie was obviously made by 20th Century Fox. Fox was bought by Disney in 2019. That means Disney technically owns the gayest movie ever made.
Yes, they do.
Yeah. And they could do anything with this movie if they wanted to, but they're not going to touch it. They're not going to touch it.
Oh, no. I think there would be too much outcry if anyone tried to touch it.
Yeah. Well, even if they reference it, it's because Disney's like consumer base is so split, and they have no idea how to interact with the LGBT community properly, like at all. We've seen evidence of that, and it'd just be really interesting. And you and I had this conversation a while back. The idea of because Disney has a Pride Night, the idea if they had a Rocky Horror homage at the theme park.
It is something that I have discussed with a friend. I think it can be done. Yeah.
It would just be so interesting if they tried to do that. But they won't. They're too afraid to do it. They're too cowardly. They wouldn't touch it. It's but this is technically a Disney movie. Rocky Horror Picture Show. The Rocky Horror Picture Show is a Disney movie.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Just yeah. My god. Anyway, that's I think that's about everything I want to say on this movie. Do you have any final thoughts?
It's a quirky, silly little movie. I'm surprised it's gotten this far, and I'm sure it'll be going on for decades at a time, so.
Yeah. Like, we'll be here 50 years from now. We'll be in our mid-70s.
We will probably be here our last couple of years to see the 100th anniversary of this movie.
Dude, imagine. You and I just meet up. We're both in broken marriages, probably a couple divorces down the line. And we're like, hey, man, let's go see the 200th anniversary of Rocky Horror.
Let's go see the 100th anniversary of Rocky Horror. We did this before.
Oh, my God. That's terrifying. That's so terrifying.
Yeah.
But, yeah. In any case, that was our thoughts on the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I hope all of you enjoyed it. Please feel free to subscribe if you're feeling generous. You can also follow me on Instagram or Letterboxd if you want to hear more of my film takes. My darling riffraff, where do you want the people to follow you?
Oh, well, I would say you can follow, not you don't have to follow just me. You can follow, our tag is happytobehere.club on Instagram. We do shows monthly in La Habra. We actually have, at the time of this being released, I think we will have our August show, August 30th. If you want to come by and see the show, I think tickets are live already. So come check us out if you can. It'd be quite the experience.
Quite the experience. Yeah. So I'll put those links in the description below. feel free to buy tickets to the Rocky Horror Shadowcast, guys. It will change your life.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But that's all we have to say. We will see you later. Bye-bye, everyone. Pleasure.